Good afternoon, my dear students. How are you? I hope all are safe and secure at your home. Welcome back to Biology IIT class. Fourth chapter, Classification of Plants. Plant Kingdom. In the plant kingdom, the next synopsis 4 is Pteridophyta. The pronunciation, say children, Pteridophyta or pteridophytes. These pteridophytes includes hostels and ferns. These plants are found in cool, damp, shady places. Some flourish well in sandy soil conditions. Evolutionary, they are the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues. That means these are the plants which are the terrestrial, which possesses vascular tissues like xylem and phloem. As we learn in the bryophytes, the dominant phase is the gametophyte. But in pteridophytes, the dominant phase is a saprophytes. That means it is differentiated into true roots, stem and leaves. These organs have well differentiated vascular tissues. The leaves in pteridophytes are small, as in Selaginella, or large, as in ferns. That means the leaves will be very small in Selaginella and large as in ferns. You can see in the picture above. Selaginella is the first and ferns is the last picture. And next, economic importance. These pteridophyte plants are used in many medicinal purposes. They are used as soil binders. They grow as ornamental also. In our houses, just we will keep for the ornamental purpose also. Now coming to the reproduction, the sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophyll. See in the picture, spores are present now children. As you know, spores will be in the lower side of the leaf. This will help in the reproduction. And in some cases, the sporophylls form distinct compact structures called strobili or cones. You see in the picture, they will form like a cones on the top. Example, Selaginella equisetum. Check the pronunciation children, Selaginella and equisetum. And next coming to the sporangia, produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. The spores germinate to give inconspicuous small multicellular free living mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. So here the germination will take place in the spores only. Okay, that is called as prothallus. And prothallus requires cool, damp, shady places to grow. As you know, prothallus requires cool, damp, shady places to grow. Also, it needs water for fertilization. So, the spread of pteridophytes is limited and restricted to a narrow geographical regions. Where the water is present, there only the pteridophytes will be present. The gametophytes bear male and female sex organs called antheridia and archegonia. As we discussed in the earlier class, male one are the antheridia and female sex organs are called as archegonium. Water is needed for transfer of antheroids, that means male gametes, from antheridia to the mouth of archegonium. So, antheroids fuses with the egg in the archegonium to form zygote. At last, zygote is formed. That zygote develops to a multicellular, well differentiated sporophyte. Okay, the sporophyte is the plant. Okay, it is having the root, stem and leaves. Most of the pteridophytes produce similar kinds of spores. These plants are also called as homosporous plants. Others produce two kinds of spores, macro and microspores. They are called as heterosporous, and the example Selaginella and Salvinia. Now coming to the next topic is ferns. See this picture, children? Yes, this is the fern plant. These are the largest group of living seedless vascular plants. They live in moist habitats. And it is having the dominant saprophyte stage and gametophyte stage also. Saprophyte stage has two roots, stems and leaves. It is having root, stem and leaves, and also will produce spores on the underside of leaves. The spores are on the underside of the leaves. A diploid zygote formed after fertilization of the egg develops into embryo with the ovule, and the ovule ripens into a seed. Seeds contain a food-laden tissue or endosperm for further growth of embryo into seedlings. This tissue represents the female gametophyte. As we discussed now, children, sporophyte and gametophyte will be present in this. Endosperm is haploid and is formed before fertilization. In the fertilization process, a diploid zygote will be formed. Before the fertilization, the endosperm is haploid. These ferns will show the alternations of generations where the dominant phase is represented by the saprophyte. Saprophyte means nothing but it is having the stem, leaves and roots. At maturity and in dry weathers, the sporangia open and release plenty of yellowish microscopic cells. These spores released by the sporangia are tiny and extensively light. This facilitates the transport by wind far from the plant that produce them. Synopsis 6. Angiosperms. Angiosperms are nothing but it is well differentiated into roots, stems and leaves. These plants are differentiated into roots. The body of the plant is differentiated into roots, stems and leaves. Angiosperms constitute highly advanced plants which dominate the present vegetation. As the name indicates, angiosperms, the ovule and seeds are enclosed in a sac-like structure. See the picture, children. This is called as ovary or fruit. Angio means sac, sperma means seed. And next, angiosperms are the large group of plants occurring in wide range of habitat, and their size varies from tiny ulfia to tall trees like eucalyptus. The sporophyte is a dominant phase of the life history. It is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. And the leaves show distinct venation. As you know, two different venations will be present, and vascular tissues are also well developed. Distinct secondary growth is seen in this type of plants. And reproduction is the sexual reproduction carried out by flowers, which may be unisexual or bisexual. Androecium and gynoecium are essential sex organs. They are surrounded by non-essential organs like calyx and corolla. See this picture. And next, pollen grains are produced by anthers of the stamen. Pollen grains is the male gametophyte. Female sex organ is pistil. Pistil consists of ovary with ovules. With the ovules, the female gametophyte or embryo sac is produced. That is the haploid. Now, embryo sac has three-celled egg apparatus one egg cell and generates 3 antipodal cells and 2 polar nuclei. The polar nuclei fuse to produce diploid secondary nucleus. Pollen grains, after dispersal from anther, are carried by air, water, insects, etc. to the stigma, so that it is thus termed as pollination. The pollen grains germinate on the stigma and the resulting pollen tubes grow through style and reach ovule. The pollen tube enters embryo sac where two male cells to form zygote. The other male gamete fuses with diploid secondary nucleus to produce triploid primary endosperm nucleus. Because of the involvement of two fusion, this event is termed as double fertilization. So in angiosperms you can see double fertilization. The zygote developed into embryo and primary endosperm. The senescents and antipodals degenerate after fertilization. Then the ovules develop into seeds and the ovaries develop into fruits. Pollination is indirect as ovules are enclosed in the ovary. The male gametes are non-motile and the water is not essential for fertilization. So coming to the classification of angiosperms. There are two classes, monocots and dicots. These are also known as monocotyledons or dicotyledons. The plants are of two types. So the monocotyledon means it is having only one cotyledon. Dicotyledon means it is having two cotyledons. See this picture, you can be identified very clearly. Mono means one and di means two cotyledons. Coming to the difference, monocotyledons having parallel veins. The venation is parallel venation, and in dicots we can see reticulate venation. The leaves will be long, slender and blade-like. The leaves in the dicot will be having the broad shape. The vascular bundles in the monocot scattered throughout. Most vascular bundles near edge of the stem. Coming to the dicots, the vascular bundles are arranged in a ring. And coming to the flowers in the monocots, petals in multiples of 3. But here petals in multiples of 4 or 5. Coming to the root system in the monocotyledons and dicotyledons. In monocotyledons, the root system will be fibrous root system. As you know, two different root systems are present, fibrous and tap root system. In dicots, we can see tap root system. The main root will be present in the dicotyledons. So children, this is about the angiosperms. If you follow the class carefully and you have to write the given homework and send to me. Thank you.